Well, I'm sure you're looking forward to the game we're going to be bringing to you from the bridge. That's the game involving Chelsea and Newcastle, but we understand that there is a seismic earthquake at Anfield. Liverpool have beaten Arsenal by 5-1. Just in case you haven't heard that, 5-1, and Liverpool were 4 goals up in the first half. What a result, and what a turnaround this could be for all the clubs who are competing for honours in the English Premier League this season. If Chelsea gets a result this afternoon, if City gets a result this afternoon, the whole dynamics of the league table is going to change going into match day 26. Unfortunately, we would have to wait for another couple of days to get games coming up in the English Premier League, because next week there are going to be games in the FA Cup, but in midweek there are games in the English Premier League, and that clearly is going to have an effect on who stays where after this weekend's round of matches. We're going to be going for a quick commercial break at this point, and again, just in case you have not heard, it's Liverpool 5, Arsenal 1. It's match day 25th of the English Premier League, live here on Joy Sports and Water TV. In 20 minutes, we're going to be taking you to the bridge for that game between Chelsea and Newcastle. In the reverse, our fixture, Newcastle getting a result there. I'm all about Liverpool this afternoon for obvious reasons. Just in case you've not heard that one, Liverpool have defeated Arsenal by 5-1. But that's not a game of interest. It's the time for the Blues. Chelsea are going into this game on very, very good form. But in the reverse fixture, they lost by 2-0 to Newcastle United at the St. James Park. This afternoon, we're going to be doing the reverse live here on Joy Sports on Multi TV. And straight away, we'll go to the match venue, Stamford Bridge, and get some match news, and they will be confirming the starting 11 as well pretty shortly. Some match news will be on your screen right about now. As we build up to the game, well, Chelsea still don't have Fernando Torres, and we understand that new signing Mohamed Salah might just get a run out in this game. We'll be confirming the starting 11 to you pretty shortly. Well, Newcastle still are likely to miss skipper Fabrizio Coluccini, who's been out through injury. Well, a bit more on team news there. Sheikh Tiote, he's not going to be available for selection going into this game as a result of injury. And Loic Remy is still serving his suspension and would also not be available for selection. New striker Luke de Jong, by virtue of Remy's suspension, might just get a looking going into this afternoon's encounter. Well, and these are for the statisticians. A lot of you out there very interested in this part of the discussion. Chelsea unbeaten in 21 home games, 10 more than any other side. And how about their defensive record? They barely concede goals at home. But Newcastle, difficult game thus for them. They haven't scored in 5 of their last 6 games. And when they do travel on the road as well, it's not been a one that their fans will be very happy about. And this is games involving the two teams, and the last 5 encounters they played in all competitions. A bit even there. The last game that was played between the two teams, Newcastle got a result. I recall that earlier this season, where they won by 2-0. And if you look at the results, and there, Newcastle seem to be pretty much on top in games against Chelsea in the last couple of years. Let's get to see the last 5 matches they have played in all competitions going into this game. And you'd understand why Chelsea do have a lot of W's up there. They have won 4 out of their last 5 games, and have only drawn 1. West Ham being the only team. And I recall after that game, Jose Mourinho saying the Hammers played like a team in the 19th century. Who was he kidding? Well, Newcastle also have only won one game in their last 5 matches. So clearly they're the team going into this game not with the very best of forms. Well, my pundits, as usual, are in here. Coach Christopher Nimile is to my immediate left, and of course, my regular in-house analyst, Najima, also joins me on the show this afternoon. Guys, I know you guys would want to have your take on the Liverpool-Arsenal game briefly before we go to our game this afternoon. Nana, let me start with you.
The beauty of the English Premier League.
Result.
The beauty of the English Premier League. It's all about competition there. Competition,
but not 5-1.
It's competition, and more competition. That's the English Premier League for you.
Coach, what a result.
Goodness me. If anybody had told me this before the start of the Liverpool-Arsenal game, I would have said no, even if Liverpool were to win, not 5-1. I mean, I had a chance to watch the first 35 minutes of that game, and I must tell you, to be frank, Liverpool should have been 7-0 up as at the 30th minute. And I just don't imagine, because this is the first time I've seen Arsenal played so shambolically. Goodness me, Arsene Wenger will really have to go and talk to these guys, because if you want to win the league title, you need to put up some run of consistent performance. You need to win the big games. You need to win the big games, and just in case some of you may not know, for Arsenal fans, I'm sure you're following the progress of your team. Next up, Man United. Maybe, just maybe, they are not the Man United of old. So Arsenal fans will go into this game with a lot more confidence. Guys, our focus story is on the match that is coming up later this afternoon. And as usual, we'll begin with the highlight of some games that have been played by the home team, Chelsea, which will be on the screen right about now as we build up to the game. Now, what a result for Chelsea in that game against Man City on Monday.
Yeah, absolutely. They played their socks off. They pressed the ball well when they didn't have possession, and they worked very well in getting in behind and in between and in the spaces when they were attacking Manchester City. It worked very well for them. They pressed high up the park, and they didn't give Manchester City time on the ball. They didn't have that luxury anymore. They hustled them off the ball. They lost possession very easily, and then were always on the back foot as Chelsea continued to attack them.
You have to be fair to the City side. They created chance after chance after chance. Unfortunately, it was one of those days where nothing just seemed to work for them. And thus was the only goal of the game, courtesy this man, Branislav Ivanovic, who has a penchant for scoring a very important goal. But, Coach, all the talk after that game has been about this little kid. 23-year-old Eden Hazard. Jose Mourinho says he's the finest young player on the planet at the moment.
I agree with him. I agree with him absolutely, 100%. Because, you see, when Hazard came last year, he was trying to adjust to the pace of the English game and trying to adjust to the physicality of the game. But under Jose Mourinho, he's been completely transformed. I mean, everything that Chelsea does, especially attacking-wise, Hazard is at the thick of it. And under Jose, it's like the man is just 23 years old, but he's playing so maturely, like someone who is about 26, 27, because that is the age at which we expect players to hit their best form.
Exactly.
And at the age of 23, I heard him speak during the week where he said that he's actually targeting to take over from the likes of Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. And if he's to go on like this, beyond the sky should be his limit.
Well, he is managed by the pragmatist Jose Mourinho, so maybe he can continue to get the best out of him. But going into this game, again, we'll be focusing a lot more on the home team, Chelsea, for obvious reasons, because a very good result here would see them go top of the English Premier League, depending on what happens in a game involving Man City and Norwich. But Jose Mourinho, Nana, going into that game against Man City on Monday, there were those who said that Chelsea were going to be in for a mauling, and that may have its own psychological effect on the number of games that Chelsea would have to play after that game. But after this result, well, he's been taunting his rivals. He's been saying a lot of things. He's been telling us about the Mazer, that wonderful Mazer that nobody knew until Tuesday, and all the good things he had to say to the Chelsea team. A lot seems to be happening around the Blues at the moment.
Yeah, well, they've changed the way they play, haven't they? And their attitude is different. Mourinho is there, and he's read them the riot act. Many of them know him anyway, know what he can do, so the confidence and the belief is there. A few weeks back down the line, Chelsea didn't look like contenders. People were saying it, but now it looks so real. Because when you look at the gap, the points gap, there's nothing in it. But this rejuvenated side, They now believe they can win the league, and we'll see. I believe that despite the fact that Newcastle has only lost 1 match out of 4 at the Stamford Bridge against Chelsea, I think Chelsea can turn them over, because that renewed confidence is really a big boost for every player in that Chelsea team. And Hazard seems to be taking the bull by the horn, and he's managing the midfield, he's marshalling the midfield, and he's going up there to pop attempts on goal as well. So, you know, I think it's going to be a good match, because Newcastle will also be buoyed by the fact that, well, you know, there's only 1 game we lost in 4 against Chelsea, so we can come here and get a result. They've proved it time after time. But Chelsea now will say there's no room for other teams getting results, especially at the Bridge.
Well, Jose Mourinho is still yet to lose a game as a Chelsea manager here, where they're going to be playing in the next 12 minutes. He seems to have his own way of getting the Blues to play and get results when they do play at home. And coach, for anyone who saw the game as well, it's interesting that game on Monday has become a reference point since that wonderful result there. Jose Mourinho surprised everyone, dropping Oscar. Started Matic with David Luiz in front of the back four. Shifted Ramirez to the right-hand side of midfield where he played at Benfica. Not many people even recall that he used to play as a winger at Benfica. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's getting Chelsea to play in a certain way now.
Goodness, once again, it is a trademark of the master tactician. Jose Mourinho will always vary his tactics depending on the sort of opposition that he is going to play. And on that day, it was obvious that if you look at the Man City setup, they are a very physical side. Oscar wouldn't match up to the physicality of the Di Michelis, the Fernandinho, the Yaya Toure and co. So it was obvious that having gotten the services of Matic, let's go and match these guys boot for boot in terms of their physicality. Did that work? Yes, it worked so well on the day. And Mourinho, to me, on the day had it so spot on that Hazard was really the face of it all, because defensively they had formed a very solid wall, which simply restricted Yaya Toure from going on those dazzling and then power forcing runs. Chelsea did not allow him to do so, and when he was blocked from doing so, Man City was non-existent in the attacking third. What I think Newcastle today is going through a lot of problems, not only on the field, but even in the boardroom.
Oh, they've lost Johan Caballo. Jokinia is gone as well.
Exactly. Now, the man said that you keep selling my best players, and anytime I ask you to bring in somebody to come and replace him, you don't get me those other one. And Jokinia felt that he was being looked down upon. He's sent in his resignation, and he's gone. On the pitch, have they replaced their best player, who to me was Caballo? No, they've not replaced him. In their last 5 games, they've won only 1 out of 5. And you don't want to go and play against the Chelsea side, who believe they've beaten the best team in the league, Man City, some few days back. So it's obvious that Mourinho, and again, most importantly, look at the result that has just occurred between Liverpool and Arsenal. So there's everything for Chelsea to play for. Mourinho psychologically has always been saying that he doesn't think that his Chelsea team should...
Well, he calls his team the little horse.
I mean, it's a psychological game. But I can tell you one thing, that he will be a happy man should this Chelsea team pull it off and win the league this season. If they don't win the league this season, fine. Of course, he's already said that he doesn't think they will. But from the way things are going, from looking at the competitive nature of the English league, I think Chelsea...
And with the results this afternoon in the game involving Liverpool and Arsenal from Anfield as well, you would bet that Jose Mourinho would edge his guys on to go get all 3 points against Newcastle. Nana, a lot has been happening in the camp of the team that plays at St. James Park. Only God knows what has hit them. And anyone who saw this Tyne-Wear derby game against Sunderland last week would get a fair understanding of the dire situation that Newcastle do find themselves. Last season, I recall that Sunderland came here and won by 3 goals to 0. Exactly. They've come here this season as well and won by 3 goals to 0. It doesn't get any worse than this, Nana.
Well, you know, Newcastle go through these phases, don't they? I mean, when Pardew was just about to take over, they were vilifying, what's his name, Chris Hughton.
Yeah, Chris Hughton.
You know, and then Chris Hughton had to go. But before he left, they grounded out a number of great results. They were playing good football. And then all of a sudden, the whole thing just turns topsy-turvy, and they can't produce the results that they were producing before. It's a similar thing that's, you know, beginning to happen now. Crowd is beginning to get frustrated. Management are getting frustrated. Pardew is wondering what he has to do, because prior to that, Newcastle are doing well. You know, they're not title contenders, but, you know, they give everybody a good run for their money. At the moment, it's looking really dire. You know, they don't know which way to turn. They really need the 3 points today to boost their morale and pick them back up, because they're on their knees.
Well, when you lose a Tyne-Ware derby at home to Sunderland, I'm not too sure what Mr. Pardew is going to be saying together last to perform their optimum. But Coach that mentioned a very interesting thing, and I would want you to have your take on that one as well. Selling their most influential player all season to Paris Saint-Germain in the middle of the season. They haven't brought in that kind of player that would replace him. How is that going to be affecting the psyche of these lads going into this game? And when you come to think of the fact that in this game, I think it was his last before he left up north, he contributed 2 of the goals.
Well, it's, you know, it's a bit of a problem. Let's put it that way. But at the end of the day, what are the standards for Newcastle, and what is the target that they've set? It's for them to sit comfortably in the middle of the Premier League. Financially, they may have needed an injection of cash too, because I can't understand why you would want to go and do that in the first place, especially when you don't have any plans of bringing someone else in there to keep the cogs on the wheel turning. So, you know, the only thing I can think of is, you know, they might have some financial disposition in the background, which we're not quite knowing about, or otherwise the player said, look, I've had enough of this, I want to go. Both of which are terrible scenarios for Newcastle, but let's face it, they've got no ambition. They don't want to play in Europa League, they don't want to play in the Champions League, they certainly don't want to win this league. They just need to sit tight in the middle.
Well, they have Champions League ambitions. I mean, only a few seasons ago they were that close. They came 5th.
I don't, you know, that would be by default. I don't think their aims and objectives at the beginning of the season is to win the league, is to play Champions League or play Europa League. Probably one of their best ambitions might be to win the FA Cup.
Well, and if that's going to happen, I don't recall the last time I've seen Newcastle win anything, whether it was the FA Cup, the Carling Cup, or the English Premier League title, or any other title before that, even when they had the best players literally in the English Premier League. But, Coach, again, when you watch the last couple of games that Newcastle United have played, never mind, it featured this man, who these days is a PSG player. There were some team, they may not be in the first 5 of the English Premier League, but week after week they put in the performances that you want to see, and then all of a sudden there is a capitulation.
At times such things do happen, and when it does, what you quickly need to do as the one in charge, in this case of course Alan Pardew, he's been given a brilliant opportunity to go to Stamford Bridge to see whether he can break that Jose Mourinho invincibility at the bridge. And I think that if he can do that, to be a perfect statement across that, yes, we may be going through some problems, but once again we have what it takes to rock shoulders with the big guys. One thing that we also need to take cognizance of, in this particular game, they are going to miss that midfield enforcer, Sheikh Tiote. He's been a superb act in the Newcastle United midfield. He's simply bamboozled his way through any team that he's played against today. Now, playing against a very physical Chelsea side with the likes of David Luiz and co in the middle of the field, obviously you will need Sheikh Tiote in there, but he's ruled out due to injury. So Alan Pardew, one thing that is for sure is that he's struggling as to how to get it right. I think this very short chap, Vernon Anita. I don't think he has what it takes to compete physically with the likes of David Luiz and then Matic in the middle of the field. So they are going to struggle without Codicini and without Sheikh Tiote and of course Kabaya, who is at PSG at the moment. I really don't see how Newcastle could go all the way to the bridge to break their record. But it's a perfect opportunity for them to make a statement for themselves. But as to whether, once again, looking at the result that we've all witnessed some few minutes ago against Liverpool versus Arsenal, I doubt if Jose Mourinho, with all these years of experience, will let this slip aside.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure he's going to make that happen. And those were a couple of Newcastle games going into this game. And you watch the inconsistency of that Newcastle team. As I recall, was their game against Crystal Palace where they won by 3-0. And interestingly, in the last couple of games that they have played, they've lost at home Arsenal and Man City at home and Sunderland at home as well. But in the last 2 travels, including this one, they've got results. I mean, they won 3 goals, I recall, here at Selhurst Park. And then they won by 3-1, again in London at Upton Park. And you're coming to London again.
Of course. So
Nana is going to tell me, but that is not Chelsea.
Might be different. I mean, you know, the type of Chelsea you're seeing now, the real title contenders, aren't they? Real title contenders.
Yes.
It's not talk anymore. They're really strong contenders. So, you know, anything can happen in this match. Anything can happen at all, because Newcastle think, yeah, we can come here, we can get the result. Chelsea are thinking, we're not going to let anybody stand in the way of a Premiership League title.
Well, this is a live feed from the bridge, and I'm sure we're all looking forward to the game. The scene, Frank Lampard in the centre of the pitch clearly told us something even before the ball was kicked. It means that John Terry is nowhere near the team. Well, he is only good enough for the bench today. Jose Mourinho deciding to rest him. Incidentally, he's played all Chelsea games before this one, and for whatever reason he doesn't get to play. Lampard did not get to play against Man City on Monday it was, and he gets to play a skipper. The last 2 times Newcastle have been in London, they've got results, and incidentally they've won all 2 games by 3-0. Is that going to happen again? Guys, I'm going to take your predictions and then we'll quickly hand over.
I've got to go with Chelsea, to be honest with you. I mean, the form they exhibited against Manchester City only spells one thing: they're serious about the Premier League title.
Chelsea to win.
Chelsea to win. If we do have the signal, I'm going to quickly hand over to live action for the game between Newcastle United and Chelsea.